Hi all, welcome back to Max's view of the world. Thank you to my subscribers. And today we're going to just do a little update on the coronavirus. As we know, the Chinese released 3 million people, or 1 million to 3 million Muslims or Christians who were in the camps, and they had organ donating going on where all the countries were organ donating, and the organs were coming from the camp, which was a terrible thing. And you find that on the Real Vision finance site. Another Real Vision site, we had a billionaire exposing a lot of what China were doing. A lot of information of China lying and how they freshly printed money and basically destroyed capitalism with their investments and pushed our real estate and everything else sky high. Well, that doesn't seem to be working, and they've come out with this coronavirus. So I don't know why, but China seems to be wanting to destroy capitalism. And why would they release the Muslims right now? And why is Iran involved in this corona thing? See, there's two links. So what is a coincidence between the Muslims being released and between the country that protects Muslims and is negotiating all the time for release of Muslims? That would be Iran to China. And they're basically friendly countries with each other, except for this, where they've imprisoned all these Muslims, and Iran would have made a deal with China to release them. And in exchange, it looks like they have done theatre on the coronavirus with an extraordinary amount of deaths, all linked to corona, and hyping up the world and creating fear. And China has showed ghost cities and spraying, and the disease isn't airborne, it isn't in the air. It passes by touch or the mouth. It passes like a normal flu. Of course, if you're in close proximity with someone and they breathe on you, you could catch it that way. That would go with any flu. There's no difference. So we've got this hype now. We're attacking each other for flying on planes and who should have flown and who shouldn't have flown, and getting all crazy. And at the end of the day, the whole thing could be theatre, because we got ghost cities, and we know that China had ghost cities. The buildings were falling down and they were reinvesting, so one investor would buy out another investor, and then they'd have these buildings that no one was living in. Well, sometimes they'd have skyscrapers with one or two people living in them. They were basically ghost cities, and now they show us video views of ghost cities, which is not unusual at all. And so I think that Iran made a deal for the release of the Muslims, and China released them, but under conditions of working in factories and getting their production going again, because presumably everyone's still sick from the coronavirus and no one could work, but somehow these Muslims are exempt from it. But at the end of the day, if it's just a bird flu, of course there's nothing going on. I mean, we've had bird flu for years and it hasn't really hurt anyone. I mean, we've had a lot of people dying, and it's just sad. And if China is linked to manufacturing all these diseases, which it seems to be doing, you would think it would be getting in a lot of trouble. Trump, he has come out and said it about the flu, and I think he knows more about what's really going on. Trump plays 3D chess a lot of the time, and you have to really look at what Trump says. When Trump just says, oh, the bird flu, and looks like he knows there's theatre going on, but he can't do anything about it. What if he did come out? What would you do? Would you believe him? Most likely you would not. And so you have to have little guys on little platforms and social media giving you their version of reality till the people are ready for the information. People are ready for the bat soup story, but they're not ready for a man-made story. Of course, that's going to create more hype. People are going to be more scared if you go, oh, China are making all these viruses. Well, they've been man-making them for a long period of time, and it hasn't really hurt us yet. So we need to not panic, and we need to just live our lives normally, because it is just theatre. Iran and China are in on it together, and they create the hype. So the the two worst countries that you cannot trust, that aren't really freedom countries, and attacking those countries is not racism. When a government is bad on its own people, has a social credit system, and has Muslims and Christians in camps, you cannot trust them. And at the end of the day, people are people are just people. But at the end of the day, governments are governments, and governments do evil things and bad things. In World War II, if we didn't criticise the Germans, what would have happened? That you had Jews in gas chambers. And so we don't want to do that again. So we need to criticise. We need to be proactive. It's not right racism. People have criticised me for that. I'm not white privileged. When I think about it though, some of my friends were, but they had no impact on me, because at the end of the day, we're in a white, self-centered society where white people look after themselves. And in that kind of culture, it is a hard culture, because we're not in a sharing culture. So survival becomes one in yourself. And so if you have hard luck in society, your family might help you out, but you have dignity too. So if you become homeless, you become homeless. And maybe people help you, but it's just, it is a hard culture to be in. So there's ups and downs with this culture. I mean, we have ADHD medication, we have retirement homes for our elderly. We don't really know how to look after ourselves. We're not the best culture to look at, and we do criticise other cultures, and we have our own problems. But at the end of the day, when a government is imprisoning people and has an organ donating thing going on, and people don't care, because at the end of the day, the Chinese money is everywhere. They've invested fully in the world, and it just doesn't happen overnight. Things don't happen that easy. Money just doesn't come from nowhere. And it came from ghost cities, and it came from freshly printing money. And we accepted that, and we allowed this to happen. And we're at the situation now where they can produce viruses and do theatre and try and destroy capitalism. Because who is the enemy of China? Trump is. Globalism is on the same side as China. They've got a pact going on. So with the social credit system, globalists love that. They want to have a piece of that. They want to implement it into Facebook, YouTube. They want to put it on the social media platforms, and then once they've done that, they can use the CTV cameras, have a same sort of system set up. When you misbehave in public, then you have a low social credit score. When you drive a car and you speed, and you do it a lot, then you have a low social credit score. And right now, yeah, we do record. We have laws though that after 10 years, those things are meant to disappear. And we have a fairer system, but if you have a social credit system, then you're in problems. You're in a society where you're judging each other, and we're entering that because we're not criticizing, we're not fighting for our freedoms. We're in this situation now. We go on a social media platform, but we have left and right. So we don't have people that vote on policy. See, I'm one who votes on policy. I voted the Chinese. I voted for them not to buy up our land and foreign ownership, but it was mainly the Chinese that were doing it, buying up foreign land, buying up the docks so they could ship the raw product back to China. And that was forestry, sheep, everything. And so they stopped that, and now I'd vote on freedoms and gun control, which would mean that I might go from left to right. So voting for me has always been about policy. It's not who you are. You shouldn't be left or right. I think in America they call that liberals. Liberals are people who try and make change, who fight for freedoms. And I'm one of those that fight for freedoms. And we have to think about it. You know, we have to criticize a country. You can't say, oh, you can't criticize China because you're being a racist. It's like, well, that's the government. You're criticizing a government. You're not criticizing a people. The people love their government and they don't like their government being criticized. But then at the end of the day, they might be waking up to a social credit system and they might be realizing with the coronavirus and having their houses boarded up that this kind of government doesn't care, and at the end of the day, they do need us. They do need us to fight for their freedoms. Another thing, they did the coronavirus. What did that do? What did that stop? It stopped the Hong Kong riots. And what did China need? They want Hong Kong because that's a strong investment. So when Hong Kong, with the riots now stopped because of the coronavirus, told to stay in your home, you cannot hang around other people because you're going to catch the coronavirus. It's very convenient. So one thing the coronavirus does is stop riots because people can't congregate. So anywhere in China, theatres, football stadiums, all these things, people cannot congregate anymore. And that helps a communist type, socialist type system of a social credit score. So we have to be very, very careful as of this thing that's coming to the West, that we don't want to be part of this. So we need to keep fighting for our freedoms. We need to say no to the coronavirus. We need to say no to Chinese money. We need to stand up and say, hey, you're imprisoning Muslims and Christians, and that's wrong. And you cannot pick on religions if you do not agree with them. And at the end of the day, Muslims and Christians will figure it out. It's the same God. They'll figure it out. It takes time. All the religions are all related to each other. It's the same God. This is a small world. We live in a very small world. When you compare flat earth to round earth, then you realize the two theory debate. And then we got NASA lying to us as well. So when you have a system and people are being lied to, it's very, very easy to keep lying to them. Keep lying to them about everything. So you have NASA. Whether or not you believe in flat or round earth, you have NASA being deceptive. They have spacecraft in space. It is not real. These things are not real. Tesla car did not go in space. It did not happen. Devon Island is not Mars. We do not have the rover on Mars. We have a robot flipping around in Devon Island. And we can see that. We can see a robot there. They do tests there, but of course it's the real thing too. It's the moon. It's off Greenland or round there somewhere up the top. And yeah, we have to wake up to the fact that we've been lied to. When you have a lie, you live in a system of lies. You live in a system where they've already got you brainwashed. So when they've got you brainwashed, it's so much easier to lie to you. It's so hard to figure out the truth when you live in a lie. So the ones who can figure out the truth are the ones who have thought about or figured it out, broken out from the chains of the lie, because the devil lies. And it's a devil lie. All this is a devil lie. Antarctica. They've got beasts probably under the ground and forming these guys. They got John Kerry in the 2016 election going down to Antarctica. Why would he go down there in an election? Going down there for information. There was something going on. If there's something buried beasts under the ground, who knows? Because you had a different time. You had a time before the flood of two races. You had the fallen angel race and you had the human race. And the fallen angel race, some of them been entombed or imprisoned somehow. We don't know. We can only guess. We've got the Enoch scrolls. We've got the Bible that gives us hints of the second race. The Bible is a history book of time, but we don't want to read it because it's religion, and the atheists need the evolution religion, which is based on the Conehead scrolls back to the Nephilim. They're not apes, they're Nephilim. That's why you hide them in storage areas of museums. That's why you're not allowed to display them now in museums, because the evolution religion would die and crash. And then you got space that's backing up evolution, wants to back it up. And so the two are linked together. Then you got the kids' science books. We're brainwashing our youth. We show them a globe ball, so we brainwash them. And then you're wondering why this coronavirus and theatre and in Las Vegas, 9/11, why it all? Why it brainwashes us? Because we're already part of it. And they think they can keep lying to us because you've already believed the beginning. When you believe all this other stuff, of course they think they can get away with lying to you because it's what they've always done. I mean, they've always lied to you.